The planet burned in silence. From orbit, Admiral Zarath Vaughn watched as the surface of Caliph split open like an overripe fruit, its atmosphere peeling away into a thin veil of glowing dust. The Dominion fleet moved in perfect formation, sleek, angular ships gliding through the void with mechanical precision. For centuries, they had conquered worlds like this. For Zarath, it was routine. The war was nothing but maintenance now, extinguishing fires in the name of order. On the bridge of the Obsidian Throne, everything gleamed black and silver. Varen officers stood at attention, their crystalline skin refracting the cold blue light of the consoles. The Admiral leaned back in his command chair, eyes half-lidded, expression caught between boredom and contempt. He could already predict the next 10 hours, surface bombardment, surrender, occupation, and then the cleansing. Humanity always followed the same script: scream, kneel, die. Target sectors Gamma through Epsilon show remaining resistance, reported Keltra, his second in command. Her tone was sharp, efficient. She had learned not to show hesitation in his presence. Erase them, Zarath replied. No survivors this time. They've outlived their usefulness as labor stock. Keltra's hands moved across the console, issuing commands to orbital cannons. From space, beams of concentrated plasma lanced downward, turning cities into glass. The sight reflected off Zarath's armor, a faint blue shimmer across black metal. For a moment, he smiled faintly, as though watching art unfold. Admiral, another officer spoke. Transmission from the surface. Human signal. Let me hear it. Static filled the bridge, followed by a trembling voice, male human pleading. This is Vega 9 Command. We surrender. Please, there are civilians. The signal cut abruptly. Zarath exhaled. You'd think they'd learn by now. Always surrendering after it's too late. A few officers chuckled, but the sound was uneasy. Something about the voice lingered, too calm, almost deliberate. Keltra frowned at her console. Strange. The signal originated far outside the planet's communication grid. It shouldn't be possible from that distance. Perhaps they've built new transmitters. Or perhaps it's just another one of their desperate tricks. He stood, cloak shifting like liquid shadow, as he walked to the observation deck. Below, the last human colony smoldered. Above, the Dominion fleet shimmered like a constellation of death. Yet amid the destruction, one small blip flickered on the radar, an unregistered vessel drifting near the edge of orbit. Identify that ship, Zarath ordered. The bridge fell into silence as scanners swept the target. Lines of data scrolled across translucent screens, designation unknown, configuration inconsistent with any known human or Dominion craft. Sir, Keltra said slowly, we can't classify it. No matching signature in the database. Zarath raised a brow. Can't classify? Then classify it as a target. Weapons charged. The alien ship remained motionless. Its hull reflected no light, its outline distorted as if space itself bent around it. The Dominion cruiser Varen's Fong moved closer, locking onto it. And then the unknown ship moved. In less than a second, it shifted position, a blur across the sensors. The Fong's targeting systems failed. Before anyone could react, a pulse of energy erupted from the black vessel, not an explosion, but a silent flash that rippled like a heartbeat. The Varen's Fong and another escort ship went dark simultaneously, no flames, no wreckage. Just gone. Shock spread through the command deck. Keltra's voice broke through the confusion. Power fluctuations across the grid. 2 destroyers offline, completely unresponsive. Impossible, Zarath hissed. No human weapon could. Sir, another officer cried. It's locking onto us. Targeting systems compromised. Evasive maneuvers. The Obsidian Throne lurched as engines roared, the ship veering hard to port. The mysterious vessel's energy spike ceased. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, it vanished into subspace. No trace, no warp trail. Silence consumed the bridge. Keltra turned, eyes wide. What just happened? Zarath stared at the empty void on the display. Something we don't understand. That makes it dangerous. A technician spoke in a low voice. We recorded a transmission just before the pulse hit. Play it. The bridge speakers crackled, and a calm, human voice echoed through the air. Target locked. Then nothing. The Admiral's jaw tightened. Around him, his officers shifted uneasily, exchanging glances. They were a proud race, unfamiliar with fear, but now it hung over them like frost. Begin recovery operations, Zayrath commanded. Retrieve any data from the destroyed ships. I want analysis within the hour. Keltra hesitated. And the unidentified vessel? He met her gaze. If it exists, we'll find it. No human ship outruns the Dominion. But deep down, even as he spoke, he knew that wasn't true. The Dominion's scanners were infallible, its databases centuries deep. Nothing escaped their archives. Nothing could simply not exist. Hours later, in his private quarters, Zayrath watched the data logs. The readings from the encounter were corrupted, sensor distortions, impossible energy signatures, fragments of code looping endlessly. Target locked. Target locked. Target locked. He stared at the repeating message until the screen dimmed. The words didn't feel like a threat. They felt like a declaration. Across the Dominion's network, reports began flooding in: lost patrols, vanished scouts, strange electromagnetic anomalies near human sectors. Each case shared the same final message before contact was lost. Zayrath listened to the recordings in silence. His pride demanded dismissal. It had to be sabotage, rebellion, coincidence. Yet something inside him, some buried instinct of an old soldier, whispered otherwise. This wasn't chaos. It was orchestration. Keltra entered, carrying a data pad. Admiral, the High Command requests your report. They expect reassurance. Reassurance, he repeated with a faint smile. Tell them what they want to hear. Tell them humanity is broken, scattered, harmless. She nodded hesitantly, sensing the lie. When she left, Zayrath turned back to the viewport. The dead planet drifted below, now nothing but ash and molten scars. He should have felt victorious. Instead, he felt watched. For the first time in decades, the Admiral couldn't predict what would happen next. He whispered to himself, voice low, almost reverent. They were supposed to beg, not vanish. The words lingered unanswered. Beyond the stars, in the cold emptiness between systems, a faint ripple distorted space. Something vast and invisible moving through the dark. The Dominion had always believed itself the hunter. Now, something else was stalking them. And somewhere unseen, a voice, calm, human, and merciless, spoke again into the void. Observation complete. The hum of the command deck was quieter now, subdued by something that even discipline couldn't disguise: unease. The obsidian throne drifted above the burned-out planet, its dark hull swallowing starlight. Reports from scattered Dominion fleets came in by the hour. Missing convoys, disabled destroyers, signals cut off mid-transmission. Each incident ended the same way, with those same two words buried in the data feed. Target locked. Admiral Zayrath Vaughn stood before a holographic projection of Dominion space. Entire sectors flickered with crimson marks where contact had been lost. To his officers, he appeared collected, but inside, he was dissecting the impossible. For centuries, humanity had been the Empire's most predictable enemy, unrefined, emotional, tragically mortal. Yet something had changed. Somewhere, somehow, they had evolved. Keltra entered, moving carefully, as though afraid to disturb the stillness. Her armor caught the pale glow of the tactical map. Admiral, long-range sensors detected another anomaly. Sector 9, an abandoned mining region. The pattern matches the previous events. Send a reconnaissance squadron, he said without turning. They already went. They're gone. Zayrath's gaze sharpened. Gone. Their last transmission was cut mid-sentence. We recovered only fragments of a visual feed. You should see it. Keltra handed him the data slate. The footage opened with static, then the view from a Dominion scout's cockpit. At first, only empty space, and then shapes emerged. Dozens of vessels, hovering in perfect stillness. Their silhouettes didn't match any registry. They looked wrong. The surface of each ship shifted as though alive, rippling like liquid metal. And then the screen went black. Time between first contact and signal loss. Zayrath asked quietly. 2 seconds. He returned the slate without emotion. It's not random. It's methodical. They're mapping us, testing reaction times. Keltra hesitated. You believe this is human technology? I believe we made a mistake thinking they were a lesser species. The words hung heavy in the air. Zayrath walked to the viewport, clasping his hands behind his back. Pull every record from a Soul archives, intelligence, captured data, all of it. I want to know what we missed. Hours passed as Dominion analysts scoured their vast archives, compiling decades of surveillance footage and classified transmissions. When Keltra finally returned, she looked different, pale, shaken. Admiral, You need to see this. She played a recovered human broadcast from over a century ago. A speech delivered by a woman in a dark military uniform, her voice steady and grim. We are not fighting to survive. We are training to endure. The next war will not be ours to start, but it will end with us. The transmission ended, followed by schematics, classified Dominion intelligence once dismissed as fakes. Experimental Terran vessels powered by something called quantum fold propulsion. Designs far beyond what humanity was believed capable of producing. Yet the power signatures from the unknown attacks matched them perfectly. Zayrath's pulse quickened, though his expression remained still. They were preparing long before we reached them. Keltra spoke softly. They built decoys, fake colonies, empty worlds. Everything we've conquered may have been a distraction. He turned to her. A feint. They wanted us to think they were broken. As if in response, the ship's alert tone pulsed. A transmission, origin unknown, was entering their communication grid. The encryption was ancient, predating Dominion code. Keltra frowned. It's human, Admiral. Direct signal. Should I play it? The bridge fell silent. The transmission opened with faint static, then a calm, unmistakably human voice. You've come far, Admiral Vaughn. Farther than most. But you misunderstand us. We let you burn the edges so you never see the center. The voice paused, and in that pause the background changed, soft, mechanical breathing, the hum of massive power systems. Then, observation phase complete. Phase 2 begins now. The signal cut. No one spoke. The only sound was the low vibration of the ship's engines. Zayrath looked at Keltra, who was already scanning for the source. No trace, she said. It was inside our network before it even appeared on sensors. He nodded once. Inform the High Council. Tell them this is no rebellion, it's retaliation. Later, in the isolation of his quarters, Zayrath studied fragments of human war footage. He watched them fight themselves, civil wars, nuclear annihilations, planetary bombardments. Every image seemed to pulse with a singular trait, defiance. The humans didn't fear death. They studied it, weaponized it, learned from it. For the first time, he understood why the others had mocked them, and why that mockery was their downfall. Keltra joined him quietly, uninvited but not dismissed. You've been watching them for hours. I've been trying to understand what drives them, he said without looking away. They fight knowing they'll lose, but they fight anyway. That kind of will, you can't subjugate it. You can only provoke it. You think they're coming for us. He smiled faintly, though it didn't reach his eyes. They're already here. A sudden tremor rippled through the obsidian throne. Lights flickered. Both officers froze as the control console came alive with alerts. Power fluctuations cascaded through the ship's systems, no attacks detected, yet every defense grid had been forced offline for exactly 7 seconds before restoring themselves. Keltra stared at the readings. That wasn't an assault. They just wanted to see if they could. And now they know they can. Zayrath's tone was calm, almost admiring. A message blinked onto his private terminal. He opened it, expecting corrupted data, but it was clean, deliberate text in the Dominion's own language. We learn. You react. Keltra leaned closer. They're communicating directly with you. Not with me, he said quietly. With the idea of me. With the Empire itself. He dismissed the screen and turned away. Prepare a course to Archon Prime. I'm addressing the Council in person. She hesitated. They won't listen. They still believe humans are fractured remnants. Then they'll listen to silence, he replied. Soon, that's all they'll have left. Keltra watched him for a moment, realizing he wasn't angry. He was fascinated. For the first time since she'd known him, he looked alive. The Predator finally recognized something worth fearing. As the obsidian throne slipped into faster-than-light travel, Zayrath stood before the darkened viewport, the streaking stars reflected in his eyes. They played dead for centuries, he murmured, and we mistook hibernation for extinction. In the void ahead, a faint distortion shimmered, a trace of something vast moving through the folds of space. Zayrath didn't order evasive maneuvers. He simply watched, knowing the universe had shifted. The Dominion was no longer the apex. When the distortion vanished, only his reflection remained, and the faint echo of a human voice pulsed once more through the comm system, soft and precise. We never surrendered. We were waiting. The sound faded into the hum of the engines. Keltra turned from her station, her composure cracked. What do we do now? Zayrath didn't answer. His gaze remained fixed on the stars, calculating, almost reverent. Whatever humanity had become, he knew the war they had begun could no longer be won with fleets or firepower. It would be a war of understanding, and he was already too late to comprehend it. The High Council chamber of Archon Prime shimmered like a cathedral of glass and arrogance. Hundreds of Dominion delegates filled the amphitheater, their crystalline forms reflecting the light from the planet's twin suns. Suspended above them, a grand projection displayed the Dominion's galactic territories, vast, red, and proud. But even from the farthest seats, the flickering red patches told another story. Entire sectors had gone dark. Admiral Zayrath Vaughn stood before them, armored in shadow and restraint. He had once been the Empire's symbol of conquest, the unshakable architect of Dominion. Now, his voice carried the weight of inevitability. We are not facing rebellion. This is not insurrection. Humanity has evolved beyond our comprehension. They are dismantling us with precision, one fleet, one world at a time. A wave of murmurs spread across the chamber. The Council's prime speaker, an elder named Tereth Kor, leaned forward. You claim a primitive species has outmaneuvered the greatest military force in known space. Zayrath's eyes narrowed. I claim they've been preparing for this war longer than we've existed as an empire. Laughter rippled through the chamber. To them, his warning sounded like blasphemy. Dominion pride was older than most civilizations. They could not imagine defeat by what they still considered a collection of fragile bipeds. Keltra stood at Zayrath's side, silent but alert. She had accompanied him across battles, seen his precision dismantle empires, but this was different. His composure no longer stemmed from control, but from revelation. Tereth gestured to the galactic map. You see shadows and call them threats. The humans hide because they are weak. They flee because they know what awaits them if they face us directly. Zayrath's response was quiet, dangerous. They do not flee. They are positioning. Before the Council could retort, the chamber lights flickered. The massive hollow map distorted, lines of static cutting across the projection. For a breathless moment, the entire room froze as the Dominion's territory map vanished, replaced by a single symbol, a circle of light surrounding a smaller, pulsing point. Then a voice, human, calm, and impossible, echoed through every comm link in the building. Observation complete. Initiating containment sequence. The chamber erupted. Delegates shouted, guards drew weapons, technicians scrambled at consoles. But no one could stop what followed. Every Dominion communication relay across the planet went dark. Fleets, factories, databanks, all disconnected simultaneously. The Empire's vast machine of control fell silent in under 10 seconds. Keltra's voice broke through the panic. Admiral, planetary networks are collapsing. Every system is being overwritten. Zayrath stood perfectly still. They're not destroying us, he said softly. They're turning us off. Outside, the skies over Archon Prime filled with streaks of light, hundreds of ships breaking through orbit. But these were not Dominion reinforcements. They were human. Sleek, black vessels, gliding with predatory silence, positioning themselves across the planet's atmosphere. Counselor Tereth stumbled backward, disbelief cracking his composed tone. How? How did they get past the perimeter? They were never outside it, Zayrath said. They've been inside our systems for years. The chamber's emergency windows opened to reveal the horrifying spectacle above. The Dominion's own defense satellites now pointed inward, targeting their cities. A single, synchronized flash illuminated the clouds as the satellites fired, not to annihilate, but to sever infrastructure, melt weapon grids, and erase military command hubs. The humans had no interest in extermination, they sought obedience. Keltra turned toward Zayrath, the reflection of fire in her silver eyes. We can't fight them like this. Every ship we send, they anticipate. Every code we write, they rewrite. Zayrath's expression darkened. They've learned to predict behavior, to think ahead of thought itself. A low rumble shook the chamber. Dominion fleets were launching across the system, but the moment they entered open space, they vanished from sensors. Human wormholes bloomed around them, silent whirlpools of distorted gravity swallowing entire battle groups. The once mighty Dominion Navy was being erased from history in real time. Keltra gripped the edge of the console. We've lost the Archon perimeter. The fleet's gone. Gone. No wreckage. No signals. Just gone. Zayrath stepped closer to the window, watching as the first of the human ships descended into the atmosphere. They did not open fire. They simply hovered, casting enormous shadows across the capital city. The sound of them, low, harmonic, almost mournful, vibrated through the air. The council demanded action. "Admiral, do something. Order the counter-strike." He turned slowly toward them. "The counter-strike began the moment we underestimated them. It's over now." "You speak treason," one of the guards barked. "No," Zarath said. "I speak reality. And you still can't hear it." Keltra looked at him then, truly looked, at the calm resignation in his face, the strange admiration threading his voice. "You've stopped fighting," she said quietly. "I'm still fighting," he replied. "Just not for the same victory." The human ships moved into formation overhead. For a brief instant, their hulls glowed with shifting symbols, patterns that almost resembled stars. Then, one by one, they vanished, leaving the skies eerily clear. Silence spread across the planet. The war was over, though no one had declared it. Zarath exhaled, his armor reflecting the dim emergency lights of the council hall. "They could have destroyed us completely," he said. "But they didn't." Keltra frowned. "Why spare us?" He studied the empty horizon. "Because they don't need to conquer what they already control." For the first time, true fear rippled through the High Council. Their pride had been their fortress, and now it was rubble. They realized that humanity's victory was not measured in destruction. It was in transformation. The Dominion was no longer an empire. It was a subject. Keltra whispered, "Then what are we now?" Zarath looked to the stars, his reflection caught in the fractured glass of the chamber. "A lesson," he said. Outside, far above the trembling planet, a human dreadnought drifted silently through the wreckage of what had once been the proudest fleet in the galaxy. Across its hull, faint white letters shimmered as it turned toward the dark beyond. Peace was always an option. The message transmitted planet-wide before fading into static. Every Dominion channel fell silent, leaving only the sound of wind sweeping across the broken world. Zarath watched the transmission end. In that silence, something inside him shifted, a clarity, sharp and painful. Humanity hadn't won through brutality, they had won through understanding, through patience. And he knew, with grim certainty, that this was only the beginning. He turned to Keltra, his voice low. "Prepare what remains of our fleet. We're not surrendering. We're surviving." "But, Admiral," she began, "they've already." "I know." His gaze hardened. "But even gods must be watched." The command deck trembled again as another ripple of subspace energy swept through the planet's orbit. Zarath closed his eyes, listening to the hum. He no longer heard it as an enemy's weapon. He heard it as a warning, a heartbeat echoing through the galaxy. The war was over, but the story of what came next had just begun. The remnants of the Dominion fleet drifted like ghosts in the black sea of space. Where once millions of ships formed the backbone of an empire, now only fragments remained, silent, scarred, and leaderless. The once glorious insignia of the Dominion, a blazing sunburst, flickered weakly across ruined hulls. Inside the command ship Vigilance Echo, Admiral Zarath Vaughn stood before the viewport, his reflection fractured by the stars. The quiet was unbearable. It wasn't peace, it was humiliation wrapped in stillness. Humanity had not destroyed them, but worse, they had made them irrelevant. Their fleets no longer registered on galactic networks. Their transmissions were filtered, edited, or muted entirely by human-controlled systems. The Dominion was alive only as long as humanity allowed it. Keltra entered the bridge, her uniform tattered but her stance unbroken. "The refugees from the outer colonies have arrived," she said softly. "They're afraid, Admiral. They don't understand what happened." "They will," Zarath replied without turning. "Fear fades faster than truth." She hesitated. "And the truth is—" He looked at her then, eyes cold and sharp as obsidian. "That we are the last remnants of arrogance in a galaxy that has outgrown it." Keltra's jaw tightened. "So we accept this. Exile under the control of those we once ruled." Zarath turned back to the stars. "No, we evolve as they did. But first, we must understand how they became what they are." Before she could respond, the ship's sensors pulsed to life. A burst of encrypted data flooded the consoles, a transmission so ancient that Dominion systems barely recognized its format. Keltra accessed it, and a holographic projection appeared between them, a human figure, blurred and indistinct, yet radiating calm authority. "I am Archon Sol," the voice said. "If you are receiving this, your dominion has already fallen. This is not vengeance, it is correction. You sought to master the galaxy through fear. We mastered ourselves. The difference is what defines eternity. The transmission cut abruptly, leaving a trail of coordinates. Keltra frowned. That signal's location. It's coming from a hollow verge. Uncharted territory. We've never. We go, Zerath interrupted. Whatever this Archon soul is, he knows why they spared us. The Vigilance Echo broke from orbit, engines igniting with renewed purpose. As the stars stretched into streaks of light, Keltra studied Zerath quietly. The man who once waged war without hesitation now seemed consumed by something far more dangerous, curiosity. Hours later, they emerged into the hollow verge, where the void itself seemed alive. Fractured asteroids glowed with faint, shifting light. Gravity waves rippled without rhythm. And at the center, an enormous structure, impossibly vast and geometric, pulsing like a living mind. Keltra's voice was barely a whisper. That's not a station. No, Zerath said, his breath catching. It's a construct. As they approached, the ship's systems began to distort. Screens bled static, instruments failed, yet one signal remained steady, the human frequency guiding them in. Against every instinct, Zerath allowed it. The echo descended into a hollow chamber within the structure, landing amid blinding light. When it faded, they found themselves surrounded by figures, humans, or at least something that once resembled them. Their eyes glowed faintly, their movements fluid and deliberate, as though time itself bent to their will. One step forward. Admiral Zerath Vaughn, you seek understanding. Zerath's hand drifted to his weapon, but he didn't draw. Your Archon soul. I am the echo of what that name once was, the being replied. Humanity transcended flesh, dominion, and war. We became what your kind could never imagine, a civilization without conflict, yet not without vigilance. Keltra stepped forward. Then why destroy us? Why reduce us to shadows? Because you would not stop, Soul said simply. And we could not allow your empire's hunger to reignite. You conquer out of fear. We act out of preservation. Zerath's voice darkened. Preservation through domination. You've become what you claimed to despise. For the first time, Soul smiled. Perhaps, but even you must see the irony. The masters of control now fight to keep their freedom. Tell me, Admiral, what will you do when no one remembers your name? The words struck harder than any weapon. Zerath's mind raced, not with rage, but realization. The humans had become architects of destiny itself. To fight them as enemies was futile. To understand them, that was the only way forward. He took a step closer. Then let me see it. Let me see what you've become. The light around Soul shifted. Few survive the vision. Fewer return unchanged. I've already changed, Zerath said. The chamber erupted in brilliance. Keltra shielded her eyes as Zerath was lifted into the air, his body surrounded by spirals of raw energy. Images tore through his mind, humanity evolving through centuries of struggle, merging consciousness, rewriting biology, becoming something both divine and monstrous. He saw their wars, their losses, their transcendence, and finally their fear. When the light faded, Zerath collapsed, gasping. His armor circuits flickered erratically. Keltra rushed to him. Admiral. He looked up, trembling. They're not gods, he whispered. They're survivors who forgot what it means to be alive. Soul regarded him quietly. You understand now. Leave this place. Carry what you've seen. The Dominion's fate lies not in war, but in memory. Keltra helped him to his feet. We came for answers. What do we do with them? Rewrite your story, Soul said, before someone else does. As they returned to the ship, the structure began to dissolve into light, fading into the stars until only emptiness remained. The Vigilance Echo rose from a verge, carrying with it the last hope of a fallen empire. On the bridge, Keltra turned to him. What did they show you? Zerath stared out at the infinite dark. That we were never their enemies, he said quietly. We were their reflection. The stars shifted, and for the first time in a long while, he allowed himself a rare, dangerous thought, hope. Not of reclaiming their empire, but of building something that could endure beyond the shadow of either species. Set a course, he said. Keltra blinked. To where? He smiled faintly. Where humanity began. If we're to survive, we start where they did. As the engines roared to life, the ship vanished into the dark, leaving behind the dying echoes of the past. Far beyond their sensors, in the void they had just escaped, Archon's soul's voice lingered, a whisper carried through the cosmic current. Even extinction can be rewritten. And in that endless silence, the fate of both species shifted, ever so slightly, towards something new, neither dominion nor submission, but evolution born from the ashes of pride.